Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. Fun fact, the first video I've recorded in like a week, because I got all of it done, and there's not much to do in the game right now, so it is what it is. But at the request of some different people, we are going to continue the How to Build Blank team with the Visions of Coleus team, the second anniversary team, the team that most new players should have unless they started in December, at which they might not have everybody. They might have Blanc and Jean because their banners are still up, but you won't have Lumi, Violet, Rimuru, and not Cleash either. So if you did start during the second anniversary and you've kept up with your account and you've been doing your free summons and you pulled a few more options, but you don't have every single unit on this team and you want to know some good substitutions, then today is going to be a video for you. But also, I might go on a little bit of weird rants because I'm tired and I haven't had a record in a week. So, with that said, let's get started. Okay, just to give you guys a quick reminder on how this team is supposed to run. It is a blue stacking team, so here we are in the beatdown battle that came with the team. So we're on turn 6. We're using stacks of Lumi to give ourselves more attack buff, and then we're gonna be able to swap these out. So alt swap into blues, and then we're gonna use Geld and Rimuru, who I brought on this run, to make sure that we can have full hands of blue orbs. So boom, boom, and that's what you're looking for. You want to send as many blue orbs in a run as possible to get your alts, to get more protection gauge so you can keep on stacking more attack with Protector Lumi. So here we go. Here it looks like a terrible hand because all we have are, greens and oranges. But we use the alt swap, that's 2 blues. We use Geld, that's 4 blues. We use Rimuru for Geld, that's 6 blue orbs. So you want a lot of units that can orb change, and then we use another stack of Lumi on Violet and Blanc, and that gets us another 2 stacks of Lumi, and that's how you're going to run this team over and over and over again, is by sending 6 blues so you can get maximum power. So here we have 400 points to use, and we only have, 295 that we actually need to use to nuke, but we also have now 2 stacks of Lumi to use. I don't know why my game is bugging out like that. That's weird. But now we brought in all 3 ladies. We're going to double stack here, so that's another 24% attack on everyone. And then we're going to use all the buffs. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 295, I think, if math served me right, which most of the time it doesn't. And then we're going to nuke. We're going to send a lot of alts with a lot of power. No one even has an EX alt, but it doesn't really matter because Blanc herself does 1,000,000, and then Violet does 1.4 million, and nothing's going to live 2.5 million damage now because nothing in the game has 2.5 million damage. So that is how the team is supposed to run. Blue orbs, lots of protection gauge, lots of stacks, lots of big time skills, big mommy damage comes out. Now, obviously, I didn't quite use this specific team setup, but this is like the brand new units that came out for the Visions of Coleus team. And again, we're running under the assumption that you have Protector Lumi because she's the whole, she makes this team run. If you don't have Protector Lumi, it's not really a Visions of Coleus team. It's a whatever I kind of got team. So if you don't have her, I'm sorry. You can ask who else you got, join the Discord, help, team people can help team build for you. But this is again running under the assumption that you have Protector Lumi. Cleash was a free to play unit, and honestly, she's not really that good for the team. You could very easily replace her with any other green orb changing unit. There are more than a few. You could put Cosma in here. He's got a green orb change, and he's got the attack and defense buff and debuff. Works pretty well. You could bring Fount of Wisdom Albus, green orb change. She's got the Pierce and Pierce resistance down debuff if the stage you're going into doesn't nerf Pierce. And then we move into like the free-to-play units, where again, like Cleash could do it. You could bring Light Millum. She's got her own orb change skill. Like, you bring her in and she converts her own orbs. Plus, she's got an attack buff, so she's kind of like a not as good Cosma. Next up, we have Light Lumi, technically. She is a green orb changer. She'll give the light buff to Blanc, one of your nukers. Blanc does really good damage, by herself regardless. So it's an option. As far as like 4-star units, you could like Water Rimuru is a god for any blue stacking team because he is to blue stacking teams what Trya is to green teams because Trya has the green convert and her self convert. Rimuru has a self convert and a green to blue convert. So he is really, really versatile for any blue stacking team. It's why most people recommend new players pick him up out of the flashback shop because he is actually available in the flashback shop. Geld, it can be good. He's not a green orb changer, but he can send all the blue orbs away. Sokka has a special convert. Frey has a special convert. There's a number of free to play or lower tier options you can put on this team, and it will still run fine. You'll be missing the little bit of magic resistance debuff that Cleach has, but honestly, it's not that impactful. So let's put Water Rimuru in here because he's just really good. Now, Jean, probably the most unnecessary unit on this team because she is like the DPS unit. But unfortunately, with this game specifically, DPS units die first. And I don't mean that in battle. I mean that in usability and viability outside of their team. Jean is really, really good if you build a team around her to make sure that she can do a lot of damage. But she doesn't really fit well on other teams because her skills are very, very specifically focused on her or on the team, like this specific team, to where you're not really going to bring her on a different team because she doesn't fit very well. Jean is, she's buffing ult, which is generic and it's fine, sure. And then she's also giving herself her own synergy buff, which if you're not running under Lumi, you're not going to get the synergy buff. So that's already kind of one dock right there. Her second skill is Primal Demons EX alts get an extra 70%. Well, Rimuru is not a Primal Demon. This Rimuru is not a Primal Demon. These two are, but a lot of the rest of the game, not Primal Demons. So no one except a few units here and there are going to benefit from that buff. And then her final part of that is Space Resistance Down, which again, if you're not a space unit, you're not going to benefit from that. So Jean, really, really powerful, but also doesn't really fit on many other teams. So she is very easily replaced. You could very easily run with just Violet as the DPS, and she will do plenty of damage. She will kill anything. So, if you don't have Jean, she is your alt buffer. So you got to bring a different alt buffer. And the biggest, easiest one to bring is EX Guy. He is also a Primal Demon, so he'll also get that 12% stack from Lumi. He's also a primary green orb changer. He's got 2 greens and an orange to 3 blues, which then takes over maybe not needing this Reamer, and you can bring a different buffer in this slot. And he's got an alt buff. So, I mean, that works out really, really well. If you don't have Guy and you need an alt buffer, we have, a number of other options. You could bring Dark Millum. She's a green orb changer, but oh well. She's got the alt buff. The next best option is probably Water Shuna, because she's a blue orb changer, oranges to blue, and she's got a 70% alt buff. Very, very powerful. You could bring Space Shinsha if you wanted. She's got an alt buff. She's got space resistance down on her buff as well, which will help Violet. She has the charm effect, which will help you get alts for your units. She doesn't bring the orb change into the field, but if you have this Rimuru and Violet, then you're pretty well set. So there are a few different options you could bring, but Guy's probably going to be your best option if you're going to replace Jean. Blanc sits in a very unique sense because she is the only unit that can triple alt swap into blues. So if you have 3 alt orbs, then you use this skill and they become 3 blue orbs, because maybe it's only turn 5 and you're not ready to nuke until turn 8, but you have 3 alts and you kind of want to keep sending full hands of blues. Well, this skill will turn all those alts into blues and then give you 6 blues, and you can do that over and over and over and over, and that way you can maximize the amount of skill points and the amount of protection gauge that you get off of 6 blues rather than trying to play around with swapping people in and out and only sending 4 or 5 blues a turn. So she is an invaluable unit for almost any blue stacking team ever. And then she's got 100% weakness strike, which works if you have type advantage against an enemy, which generally you're going to want to bring a DPS unit that has type advantage, so you can benefit off this skill. Synergy resistance down, again, is dependent on having the synergy buff. So if you're not running Lumi, you're going to lose out on this secondary part of her skill, but she's still worthwhile because this applies, and this definitely applies to a blue team. Blanc is very hard to swap out, but if you had to, your best option would be Summer Shizu, because she swaps 1 alt orb, not 3, but 1, and then she's also got a 60% weakness strike buff. The only other unit that swaps out to a blue orb from an alt is this Warrior's Mind Rimuru, who, if you run the team as it looks right now, his secondary skill giving alt gauge, which ramps up every time you use a protector, will give alt gauge to both Guy himself and Violet, because it only hits Earth and Space units. So, I mean, he is a solid option that you could, in fact, bring. It's just that he's helping you rush alts, which, if you're doing this, but you only have the ability to swap 1 alt, it kind of gets out of hand, and then you're not going to be able to send the 6 full hands of blues. So he is definitely a lower tier option, but he can definitely help you get a lot of alt gauge, and if you just want to start sending nukes left and right, then by all means you can bring him. So that's probably your third option. If you don't have Summer Shizu or Blanc or Rimuru, I would just bring another support unit and just try and pile on the damage, like Albus or something like that, and just keep sending ults. Don't worry about trying to hold them, and just launch them. Violet would be the DPS if you don't have Jean. She's also the 100% magic damage buffer, and she's the orange orb changer. So if you don't have her, you're gonna have a few problems. So she's kind of pivotal, kind of important. Let's say you're a newer player, like starting in December, you don't have her. Well, let's say you just didn't get lucky and didn't pull her. You could replace Megamine with her, and if you happen to pull Blanc, then you could do that. If you happen to pull Jean, you could do this, and you'd still have an orange orb changer, you'd have a green orb changer, you'd have all of Jean's buffs. It could still work. But you kind of need someone on the Visions of Coleus team to do big damage, and if you don't have any of the 3 ladies, then it's not really a Visions of Coleus team anymore, and you're probably better off using something else. So Megamine can swap out. She is an alt buffer, so I mean, like, putting her and Jean together is kind of a waste, because Jean's alt buffs are better than Megamine's. Megamine would literally just be here for the orb change. You could, in fact, like, bring Geld, right? Because he's got his orange convert and the giveaway. You could run the team like this, and you could probably get away with just having Jean. So that works. Rimuru also sits in a very odd spot. He's got the same self-convertibility as this water Rimuru, but then he's got the rainbow unity orbs, which a lot of people, myself included, initially downplayed, because it's like sending 6 orbs of every single color at once. So you get maximum alt gauge, maximum skill points, and maximum protection gauge if you were to send a full hand of rainbows. But they need to be blues first off, and you can only use it once, which really, really turned me off. I was like, oh man, I really want this to be like a 2 or maybe even a 3 use per battle thing. I understand now that we've had some time to use him why they limited it to 1, but still, he is definitely not a necessary unit. He just helps you get rid of some orb RNG. You could put him with another orb changer. You could put him with a damage buffer. You could put Space Millim in here, and she'll give the space buff to Jean as well, plus the Pierce buff, plus all of Jean's buffs. The things you're looking for are a lot of strong double duty orb changers, whether they're orb changing and having a powerful buff, or they're doing 2 different types of orb changing like Geld or Rimuru. You want them to be able to do multiple things on the team, because you only have a limited amount of slots. This Millim can be a sub DPS. She's got a space buff. She's got Drago, so she's buffing herself. She's buffing Jean as well. That is double duty. Rimuru and Geld are both double orb changing in some fashion. That's double duty. This Albus is orb changing and giving the Pierce buff. That's double duty. It's a lot more effective than trying to bring one unit who can do something like Milim, right? She's alt buffing, but then she's orb changing to greens, which you don't want on this team. So she's only doing one job, and she is very easily replaced by somebody else because right now we have an alt buffer on the team, so you're unnecessary. This Lumi, she's green orb changing, but we no longer have a light unit on the team except her, so her light buff is not needed. Who else? This Rimuru, right? Maybe you pull Rimuru and you're like, oh yeah, guaranteed crits, awesome. Yes, very cool. But he gives everyone crit, but only himself crit damage, because the crit damage is only for dark allies. So not very useful there. Who else? How about an EX unit? Who would fit on here? You could bring like Bride Shinna or Summer Hinata for the triple orb steal. Maybe get rid of some RNG. Possible, but again, she's not really doing anything else besides that, and it kind of seems like a wasted slot. So ideally, you want orb changers and you want damage buffers. So you could do that. You could do this. You could do that. A lot of different options, but as long as you're focusing on people who have lots of blue orb changing to ensure that you can send full hands of blues every turn, while still giving yourself a very good amount of damage potential, then you're going to look pretty good off. So hopefully this video helps you understand how to build the Visions of COLEUS team. Again, feedback is appreciated. This is the second video in the series, so I'm still looking how to make things better. I tried to expand on the free-to-play, lower tier options. There are other units in this 4-star pool that also orb change, like Light Milim orb changes. This Fire Shuna orb changes to blues, specifically blues. So there are other options in here, but there comes a point where between being orb changing and being actually useful and not dying, because they're such low tier and maybe you don't have them built, things can happen. But let me know what you guys think of this video. But that's it for me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.